This is KHTS News Director Michael Brown, once again back in studio. We're continuing our coverage of the 2020 election as it pertains to Santa Clarita, going through all of the bigger races that impact the Santa Clarita Valley. We just heard from Suzette Valladares, and today we're speaking to her opponent for the race for AD 38, Assembly District 38. This is Lucie Volotzky. Lucie, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. We're very glad that you came on. Glad we were able to make this happen.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. The first question we like to ask every candidate, regardless of what race they're running in, is why are you running for in this particular race?
Well, I'm running for this race because Sacramento, I think it's really broken. We're losing a lot of our businesses, a lot of people leaving town. Our educations, it's ranking very high. We are behind of knowledge. The kids, they don't learn anything anymore. Our law and order is in disarray. There is so many problems we're having right now in Sacramento. That's one of the reasons I'm running. And I
want to get into that with you in a little bit, but first I got to note that this is a pretty interesting race this year for Assembly. We have not only two Republicans running, but two Republican women, which to my knowledge hasn't happened in the Assembly District 38 for quite some time. What distinguishes you from your opponent?
Well, first I would like to let you know I won that race by myself, alone running this race. Nobody behind me, as little as $2,000 of donations, and I make that race, and because of me, we have a red seat today. And I'm telling you, what it make a difference between me and her, that I don't jump to a city to run for office. And also, the people right now, they want to know the truth, value, integrity. Not a politician and not from an establishment. It's very, very important for the people right now.
Gotcha. So obviously the big issue that not only the state of California has been facing, but the nation and the world as a whole is the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been the headline of 2020. How do you think the state of California has been handling it, and what would you be doing differently or additionally if you were elected to state office?
Well, I think our state handled that very poorly. For me, if I will see that and be in a position right now, in the past when even it happened, I might stop everything for 2-3 weeks. Says, let's stop everything and let's see what is the problem, what we're facing. But when they decided to do things, they didn't. They decided to close all non-essential businesses, and that was a big mistake. Everything is essential for the people. And when they close small businesses and they let the big box open like Costco and Walmart, there is more chances to have the pandemic spread than a small box, than a small business like 1 or 2 customers can come a day. Then it's really, really been handled very poorly, and that destroy our economy, and that destroy a lot of small businesses. And our backbone of economy is small businesses. And I know I could handle that, frankly, better than they did right now.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, you don't agree with the take they had where they allowed more bigger chains such as Walmart, Target to reopen and not small businesses. And if you were elected into office, you would want to kind of maybe level the playing field for small businesses?
Definitely, because I don't think it was a place that the pandemic can be spread as much like a big box like Walmart or Costco. That was wrongly handling.
Now, how would you level that playing field for small businesses and help them recover? Obviously, reopening would help, but is there anything else along those lines that you would support?
Oh, definitely. Right now, we have to give more incentive for small businesses. Of course, on the current of the COVID, about 50% of the businesses might not open, but at least the one they survive, and they're still surviving and borrowing money and crying my shoulder than I just experienced last week, that the people try to survive and save their business. We need to bring back incentive, tax cut, everything we can do what we have left in California to save what we have. It's very, very important. We need these businesses open and keep open.
Now, can you go in a little bit into what you mentioned, that you said tax incentives maybe to help small businesses? Are there any sort of specific tax incentives that you would support, or things you've thought through like that?
Well, of course, there is a level. Of course, I'm on the level of the state, but city and state level, they should really, really cut the tax very, very the minimum as possible, that they can feel that they're getting something back, or a loan as very little as a 2% example. Something the government can come behind and say, hey, I want to help you. I'm going to give you a loan, not at 5, 6, 7%, whatever it is, but a very minimal percentage, just to give a sense of responsibility. But the things we need to bring back our business, we need. Otherwise, we're going in disarray, and we're going in a third country right now if things doesn't change.
Now, we're going to transition away from the COVID pandemic, but before we do, one more question along it. People talk about there being two sides to this pandemic. Obviously, there's the economic impact of businesses being closed, people being out of work, but there's also the obvious health aspect of it. How do you think the state's handled the health side of the pandemic, and what would you be doing in those terms?
Well, in the health side, let me tell you something. You have 20 doctors say different things. And I think we are lacking on the truth somewhere, somehow. And after a while, you're asking yourself, is it political or is really health issues? I know there is a health problem. I know we have experienced, some people even close to here, Mr. Goldman, what he's been through it. But the thing is, we have to be more truthful, really, what it's COVID and how much it can spread out. And one day says you could do at 3 feet, and they put it at 6 feet. Everything is all, everybody said different things. Then I would like to see the truth, the real truth. The real doctors say come and have the experience of that and what to expect from that. And plus, we know that COVID, they knew about 2-3 years ago. They should have something in place already. What could be done if, in case a pandemic happened? It was not just like that, They kind of knew already they might have a pandemic of COVID. That's what I can say.
Gotcha. So you just kind of want to bring a consensus together of health experts to kind of see for yourself what the impacts of this disease is health-wise, because you are right, there is a lot of conflicting information out there. Yeah,
definitely, and this is what it's a misunderstood for everyone, and everyone at that point we have a different thinking. Should I not wear the mask? You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have a clear picture of anything, I'll be honest to you. This is what I feel. And I'm not just the only one. There's a lot of people feel like me, that we don't have the clear picture of the pandemic.
Gotcha. Now let's move away from the pandemic and onto another really big issue that the West Coast and California has been experiencing over the past couple of months, and that's the wildfires here in California. We've had state officials attribute it to, in part, to climate change. We've had others attribute it to poor forest management. Where do you kind of stand on how these fires, got this bad, and what would you be doing to prevent such bad wildfire seasons in the future?
Okay, let me tell you, I was driving, and I was thinking about that question. And as simple as that, you have a beautiful garden, but there is weeds around it. What are you going to do? You clean the weeds, and see a healthier garden. It's the same thing with the forest. If you clean, you remove the dead woods, what will happen with the forest? It will be healthier. And this is what we're lacking. They are lacking to do a cleanup. We have to clean as much as you can. You own a land, the fire department comes and say, oh, you have to clean your weeds. Well, maybe 5-6 inches of weeds. If you don't, we're getting a fine. What's happening with our public or government land that they are not taking care of? Then I think it's a neglect from our government not to take care of our forests, and that will avoid, at that point, the problem we're having right now. The climate change, we always have to watch our climate. I think it's important to have a clean water, clean street. The people be more concerned around themselves to have a surrounding in the cleanest way. It starts from us, just as a baby step. And if everybody does take care of themselves around where they live, that will help the rest of the climate change. There is a lot of things we all know about gas emissions and things like that. But first, you have to look around you and make a good cleanup. And the forest has to be clean, definitely. Anyway.
Now, this district is pretty unique because we have not only state lands, but we have federal lands as well. How would you coordinate with the federal government in terms of keeping the federal lands clean? The idea came up of even maybe, let's say you get elected to office, but then a Democratic representative gets elected to Congress for our district. Do you foresee any issues in working together on something like that? Or
it's always about communication. That's it. You know, if there is a problem, it's communication. Doesn't matter city level or federal levels. It's about connecting together and see what we can do for that solution. You cannot just go alone and make a decision. It's a work effort. We have to regroup ourselves, and because we are concerned in the same place, we overlaps the city or the land and this and that. We have to connect together and make a solution. Solution is the key. It's always connection and communication. And of course, there is chance of good communication if you want this allowed.
Gotcha. Now, talking before the interview started, we were talking about how you're coming up from Chatsworth. You have to hit the 5 and the 14 just to get to here at the KHTS studios. Those are probably the couple of the busiest highways in all of California, and both are here in this district. Now, we were joking that you knew when to get on the freeway because you've just lived here long enough, and same here. But a lot of people don't have that option. A lot of people have to be at their jobs at a certain time, causing a lot of congestion on the freeways, a lot of infrastructure problems. How would you approach those issues from the state legislature?
And of course, this is about engineering. It's a lot of study to make that I'm not very knowledge about that, I can tell you. But there is a few things you have to look at it, and you saw different countries, cities, sometimes they use hydraulic system like a dividers that in the busiest time, to dependent of the hours, that can be removed, add another lane or something like that. But what's happening in Sacramento, instead to invest the money on the train to nowhere again, why they don't take that money and focus right now that on the 14 and the 5, that the people have been debating that for so many years already, and nothing is happening because they don't use the money properly where they should be used as an infrastructure at different places. And the 5 and the 14, I know it's a big problem. And of course, I will look at it very closely when I get to Sacramento. And again, I want to work with everybody. And I think there is always a solution, but you have to put your hands on. You have to do it.
So you're mentioning you want to work with everybody, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, but regardless of who gets elected, you or your opponent, you'll be walking most likely into a legislature that will have at least a majority, if not a supermajority, of the opposite party. How do you view yourself working to forward some of these more conservative priorities that you have in a more progressive or democratic legislator?
Well, I think you have to approach with common sense. Everything is about common sense. Then when you have a problem or obstacles or anything, when you want to reach out on the other side, says to bring common sense, to make thinking what is good, what is bad. It's talking, it's communications. And I think, again, it's about the lack of communication between people. And I'm not afraid. I've been in public for 35 years, owning a business. And if you don't communicate, this is what you run for a problem. But if you communicate very well, most likely you will have good answers. But this is the key, communication again and I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of anybody, by the way.
So your view then of maybe some of the gridlock or the just inability to seemingly get reform or things done on our freeways and things in general would be due to a lack of communication? Am I understanding that?
Well, it's not really a lack of communication. Of course, it's a question of funding. There is a lot of more, not just lack of how we can fund and how you can find the solutions. There is things that can happen. But you have to put your hands on. Some people, they talk about it and they're pushing away, just to hear, oh, yeah, we're taking care of it. We're taking care of it. But the money is not there. They take the money somewhere else. They do it's always about money in the end. Where they will put the money to the train to nowhere, or on something that people can enjoy and be on the road and the problem been taken care of. You have to think both ways,
Another big problem here in the state of California and really the nation as a whole, is the growing opioid epidemic. It hasn't slowed down. If anything, it's picked up during the COVID pandemic. Here in Santa Clarita alone, we've been talking to mental health officials, public health, law enforcement officials, and they're all in agreement that the number of fatal overdoses here in Santa Clarita specifically is on the rise, especially in relation to the substance known as fentanyl. Do you see the state's role, what do you see the state's role in combating something like that?
Well, we have to open more facility. I think it's been neglected. And I know for the right of the person, mostly of the overdose or the people, they have this big problem. Also, we are having a lot of homeless had that situation, this problem, that we cannot even try to try to ask them if they need help, or force them a little bit, because consciously it's difficult for them to think about getting help. But with the ACLU for the right of the person, it's very difficult right now to do anything for the people and helping them. Then we need to bring a law that we can and be able to help these people. We need to bring facility and have the right to take care of them. Right now, the ACLU is the big problem behind this, the homeless situations and the drug issues, because we cannot do anything. Even the law enforcement, they look at it, they cannot even take them anywhere. And if you look in Sacramento, in San Francisco, I want to say, they're putting them in a hotel. The government put them in the hotel, motel, and give them the drugs instead to take care of the problem. Then the government doesn't do anything good right now, and our law and order is on disarray because of that. And we need more facility, and we need to bring laws that we give them the possibility to take care of them.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned that you said that the ACLU could be a problem in trying to address this. Could you explain maybe your viewpoint as to why the ACLU would be an issue?
Well, the ACLU, I know they are there to want the right for the person. I know they want to protect the person. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. But in a sense, a lot of time the ACLU, they don't do goods for the person. They don't. It is what it is. It's for everything. The ACLU, that's why, the example, the city did, they avoid not to do much about the homeless situation on the street, because it's always a battle against a lawsuit with the ACLU because of the right of the person. You cannot move the tent, you cannot clean up, you cannot touch this, you cannot. It's very, very bad, the situation we are right now.
Okay. So talk to me about what your top priority, maybe one or two top priorities that you would have if you were elected to office.
Well, definitely I want to go to AB 5. our independent contractor been destroyed under AB5. This been run first. It was done by the Supreme Court, kind of give them the right to receive some maybe how can I say? Employment if they lose their job and things like that. But independent contractor always been doing very well with themselves. And we have to bring this back. We have to bring the liberty of the people. They want to do what they want to do. As long as they don't do anything unlawful, they should have the right to choose what they want to do, not be determined by our government again. Our government tried to control our private lives as an individual, and we have to stop that. Then that's why I'm going to really to fight AB5 to bring our business back. They're losing their houses, they're losing their family, they don't know what to do anymore. This is the only things they knew, to be independent, to do what they wanted to do. And that touched everyone. The musicians, you know, we read people, the newspaper. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, or it doesn't matter. It touched every one of us. We have to stop the government to run our life.
Gotcha. Now, as we wind down here, I've got one more question for you, Lucie. Come November 3rd, we go to either the ballot box, the mailbox, however the election is going to be run this year. Why would somebody within the 38th Assembly District in California vote for you?
Well, let me put, like I says, I've been in business for 35 years. In 35 years of my life, I saw everything from the trade to going to China, people losing houses, homes. 2008, when the house bubbles. And now what's happening with with COVID-19, so many people losing the livelihood. They are moving out of states because our state doesn't handle things very well. Like I said, I'm a person of truth. I have 4 beautiful children. I'm a grandma, and I'm worried about my grandchildren. Then if I'm worried about my grandchildren, I'm worried for the other children. Our kids, they don't have any voice anymore. The government take them away from the parents right now with everything they teach in school. Then it's one of the reasons we have problem with our small businesses. We have problem with our education. We have our men and women right now. They are handcuffed. They cannot do what they need to do. And I'm a person of truth, value, integrity, and I'm not part of the establishment. I'm a part of person, a life experience. Enough is enough what we have in Sacramento to bring someone, oh, I'm an attorney on this. I don't against for the attorney, make me wrong. But the thing is, you need life experience, what you feel the pain to others. Like someone cried to me last week. She has to borrow $25,000 from a child, one of a child, to stay open for the business. Someone reached out to me about the pedophile. You know, all this human trafficking. This is what I have the experience to talk about, of different various issues that I can help the people.
Well, Lucie, thank you very much for joining us today. That was Lucie Volotzky. Thank you, everybody at home and on Facebook Live, for joining us here on KHTS in our continuing coverage of the 2020 election for Santa Clarita. Make sure that you check out our Facebook page for all the interviews we've done, and look forward to next week for the state Senate race. Joining live, this is Michael Brown.